Was that so? Did you guys all do the Pottermore Patronus?
Ooh, no, I
No, I never got that far.
Oh, okay.
No, I never did that one.
I'm the only one that did that. Okay, I got a Newfoundland dog as my
or
Patronus.
Patronus.
Are you going to do it right now, Andy, while you're doing the show?
Hells to the yeah, I'm doing it right now. while I'm doing the show. I want to be a flying squirrel. Yeah.
I think that
'Cause you're
actually is one of
squirrel.
them.
And you fly. I mean, fuck. Wow, there's like graphics to this. This is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, the quiz is pretty neat. The quiz takes you on like a journey through the forest.
Yeah, this is adventurous. I feel like there would be music too, but I muted it.
Andy,
Oh yeah, there is some music.
You sound so like enchanted and enraptured right now. It's amazing.
I'm mystified
yeah.
right now. This is awesome. So my Patronus
What's the reveal?
is a Russian blue cat.
Okay.
Hells to the
And there's the intro.
I was not going to use it until he did the meow. The meow put it over the top. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bragana Super Friends, the podcast that turns a magic minute into a magic 2 hours. I'm your host, Brian Labick, and for this episode, I've caught a few fantastic beasts of my own. They include Andy Stoles.
Obliviate. Wait, huh? What?
Mike Bradley.
Hello.
And, of course, we have to have Josh Zorich on for this one.
My day has come.
Sounds like Ian last week.
Yeah, that's true. We had Ian talking about anime last week, and we got Fantastic Beasts for Josh this week.
I found my
This is your
calling.
moment. Yeah, this is your moment to shine. This is your Star Wars.
I'll take it.
So, we talked before, but how many times have you seen the movie already?
Well, the movie was technically, first screenings were, I guess, Thursday, November 17th. We're recording this on Tuesday, the 22nd, and I saw it for the third time today.
So you're getting in there, getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
Are
plans
there
to see
more
it
planned? Yeah.
It depends. Myself and my wife Sarah, we both saw it twice together, and then I went with someone else to see it today. So if Sarah wants to see it a third time herself, I will probably go with her, or if anyone wants to go a second time or a first time, I will be probably more than happy to accommodate if possible.
It's just one of those things if someone says, yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. Fine, I'll go. That's cool.
Oh, freaking yes, yeah.
I'll clear my schedule.
Because I'm assuming it'll be in theaters 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, really, once Rogue One hits, that's going to be the weekend it probably goes out. It might be lagging on 1 or 2 shows, but and then it's going to be a couple of months before it'll be, available on Blu-ray. So I'm getting all the viewings in that I can.
Fair enough. I know the feeling. I do the same thing with Star Wars, so it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Force
gonna say
Awakens, I saw it like 7 times in 8 days or something like that.
that Force Awakens I saw twice in the first 3 days it was out, but Deadpool I saw twice. I saw it on Thursday night at like the midnight showing.
Yeah.
And then again Friday afternoon at a 2 o'clock showing. So it was like 16 hours maybe, and I saw it twice. So I understand it.
Nice.
Yep.
Did you see any? Did any of you see it in 3D?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the third viewing today was in 3D. Mike, what did you think? I didn't. I'm sorry, Andy. Did you?
I did not. I was just curious. I saw it in 2D. I was curious if it was worth a 3D experience, like as a second showing.
Having seen both versions, I'd say not really.
Yeah, the 3D
There
didn't
were
seem
only-
to add much.
Yeah, there were only a couple of parts where I was like, "Wow, that'd be awesome in 3D." like when the words were coming at you, like right in the beginning. I thought that would be really cool, but didn't really see much else.
Yeah, that's always effective. And there was a couple spots, like when he and Jacob first go into his case that time, and you're going through all the creatures, and like, there was some accentuated detail to some things that popped. And then there were, what were they're like little insect-looking creatures. They were in like the water droplet-looking things.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of like when you have all that empty space around objects, I think 3D does really well in those cases. But as a whole, even with like the Obscurus and all that, like I didn't really think it added a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
I mean, I feel like the presence of the little hummingbird insect thing was kind of like its purpose was to add 3D effect for the movie. Like it didn't really serve much other purpose, and it wasn't anything special. So when I think of what was 3D in the movie, that was the thing that came out in my mind the most because it was more annoying than fun. But
so just sort of steer the ship a little bit. But
yeah, go ahead.
if you haven't guessed, we're talking about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is our final review, finally, of the movie. And I think Josh and I had talked. We've been trying to get schedules to match up for a while to even just get on and talk some Fantastic Beasts news. There's been 2 or 3, I think, news topics that we've been put on the back burner because we haven't been able to get together and talk about them. So they'll probably come up during the course of our conversation. Because some of them are spoilerific, so we'll get to the spoilers when we talk about them. So I think it's probably fair that we can finally queue up another Magic Minute, even though it may not be a minute. But that's the fun of it, right?
Hello, wizards, squibs, and muggles alike. It's time for a Magic Minute, where we talk about Harry Potter for as long as we need to. If you're thinking, hey, that's not a minute then, well, you can stick it up your whomping willow.
All right, so now that we're queuing up our Magic Minute, we're going to go ahead and try to give our thoughts on Fantastic Beasts. And since this is a movie review, and it's one that I know we're all anxious to talk about and get into the specifics, it's probably easier just to throw out the spoiler alert now, get it out of the way. So if you have not seen Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and you don't want to be spoiled, pause us now, come back to us after seeing the movie. Unless you're the person that hates surprises. In that case, listen on, because we're going to spoil all the surprises for you. So this is your last chance. Spoiler warning for Fantastic Beasts.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! You know, something like that.
And now that that's out of the way, holy shit, Johnny Depp, that was awesome.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
So yeah, if we're hitting the ground there, let me say, like, so it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that I saw a news story somewhere of like rumors that Johnny Depp might be being talked to for future sequels, and what role might he play? And I honestly did not see that coming at the end at all. Once I saw Colin Farrell's hair starting to change, like that moment, I'm like, oh frick, he's Grindelwald. And if they're gonna show us our face, like he's already in it. Like they already locked Johnny down, like he is in this. So I don't know if like early screenings of the movie, you know, some reviews or people who were supposed to be tight-lipped or not started floating those out. But like, I don't know, if I hadn't heard those rumors at all, I would have been 10 times more surprised.
Well, turns out, like I read post having seen the movie, that he actually had been signed on to do that in secret like a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And that because the speculation was that it was a last-minute decision to include Grindelwald in the movie.
Okay.
To, you know, continue to make it a franchise, to have him be the overarching villain for the franchise and everything. But it turns out that, you know, it's completely false. He was signed a long time ago, and they just kept it really under wraps.
Which it seems they did.
Good job on their part.
Yeah,
then.
exactly. Even if the stuff that leaked out recently sounded like rumors for the future, even at that point, if they kept the real surprise under wraps, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when you heard them mention Grindelwald's name, you seen that Colin Farrell was obviously going to be the villain in the movie in some way. I figured when his hair changed, like I was thinking at the end, oh, it's just going to be Colin Farrell with blonde hair.
That's what I was figuring too.
Because
yeah.
You know, like I just figured he was Grindelwald, and that was going to be that.
That was it, yeah.
And seeing it being Johnny Depp, it was just like, oh, they just took it up a step. Okay, let's
Yeah, that
Yeah, I
So
mean,
is it?
Colin Farrell's cool and everything, but I don't know if he could have carried a franchise for 5 movies as a villain, whereas Johnny Depp can definitely do that.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, they hit the ground running, like, right in the opening title sequence, really before you got anything else. I mean, they gave you the title screen, and then they went right into graphics about Grindelwald's activities in Europe and his rise. Like, I had this impression that since this is set back at the time of his rise to power, that he might eventually play a role in it. I was caught off guard at just how much they really threw their hat into that and hit the ground running with him. I mean, he doesn't really come into play anywhere in the middle. It's really just a bookend thing to introduce him as an idea, and then you end up with him at the end. But
Right.
I didn't think that was going to really play into the narrative at all. I thought that would be something they might lay the smallest of seeds for, but that it would really pick up in maybe part 2 or 3.
Well, what?
So I have a question about the transformation that Colin Farrell took.
Okay.
Was that
Yes.
a polyjuice potion or was that a charm?
That is a good question, because do we think that the character of Graves existed before Grindelwald showed up there? Did he take the place? Did he effectively probably kill Graves and take his place?
Well, you'd have to keep him alive, not kill him,
If it's
because
polyjuice.
to continue brewing the polyjuice potion. So he'd have to still be alive somewhere, which we may get answered in the next movie if the real Graves does turn up. Like if they realize that, oh, it was polyjuice potion, and they somewhere in the interim between these 2 movies they find him, find the real guy.
Yeah.
So
So, and
that
Okay,
would
let
be
me ask-
something that may be answered.
yeah, go ahead.
Here, I got a question now too. From the beginning opening of the movie, when we start seeing, when they set up Grindelwald, and you start seeing all the newspaper articles and stuff, how much time passes between that starting of those graphics to when the movie takes place in New York?
That is an excellent question, and that's one of my hypotheses, is that either Grindelwald has been in hiding for a few years, so those newspaper articles take place a few years before the story picks up, in which case a random skilled wizard named Graves could walk into the American Ministry of Magic, build a career for himself, and move up.
that was going to be my question.
See, I was going to say
Or-
it probably needs to be longer than a few years to be able to do that.
At least, yeah. Or, like you said, was this person Graves already an Auror? Was he head of the Auror office and existence? And, through a selection of potential means, did Grindelwald usurp him and take his place? I mean, none of the other stories technically, say how, like, any other time polyjuice is used in the other stories, no one simply uses like a Revelio charm to counteract it. There is the part in the Deathly Hallows where they have used Polyjuice Potion on Hermione to turn her into Bellatrix, and then they go under the waterfall under the bank, and that waterfall is it's like an enchanted waterfall that washes away other charms, and that undoes the Polyjuice. So to simply answer the question, was he using Polyjuice or was it a charm? Who knows? And yeah, like Mike said, maybe that's something that gets answered in the next movie or 2, which I would be happy with, number 1, to tie that up. But also, I actually liked Colin Farrell's spin as a wizard a whole lot. So if he's able to like resume himself and continue being in the films, I would enjoy that.
Yeah, kind of like Moody,
Yeah.
Like you think he's Moody the whole time, and then all of a sudden he's not, and then you do get the actual Moody afterwards, which is pretty cool.
And I think that as far as the whole time passing thing, I think it would take more than just a couple of years for somebody new to become the head of the Auror's office there.
That's kind of what I was
True.
thinking too. Like, it sounded like he was very much counted on for someone who maybe only have a couple years under his belt.
Right. Which brings me to a point that I wanted to bring up about the time frame idea, is that how the hell old are they saying that Grindelwald and Dumbledore actually are?
Uh-huh.
Because if this is taking place that far back,
Uh-huh.
and
Because this was what,
if he-
1920
26.
Grindelwald seems fairly well aged when he's revealed.
Youngish.
They well, I wouldn't say youngish. I mean, he looks to be in his 50s, I would say. I know they say he's like 150 years old for Dumbledore at
yes,
one point.
and they are the same age.
Right. I know they're the same age and all that,
Yep.
but I mean,
So Grindelwald would be about 80 years old in 1926. Yes.
okay.
Now,
so they're saying that at the start of this is something I never was clear on, though.
Okay.
It was for the start of Sorcerer's Stone.
Yep.
Is that whatever year that was when it was written? Was that like 99, 2000?
No, it was taking place in the fall of 1991. Because Harry is born in 1980, and he goes to school the September following turning 11 years old.
So it's even earlier than in present time. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you do the math, yeah, Grindelwald and Dumbledore are both about 80 years old at the time that Fantastic Beasts is taking place.
Okay. That was something I was not sure on. So for 80 years old, I'd say he actually looks good. If he's only supposed to be 80 there, that's not a bad looking 80.
All right, so I want to bring it back to Grindelwald impersonating Graves for some reason, somehow. I did put it out on Facebook and stuff this morning about trying to get questions from listeners and people to try to stump specifically Josh, but Mike informed me he's pretty hardcore into this too, so between the both of you.
All right.
And I got one question, and it came from Mike's wife. So she wants to know, how do you think Grindelwald infiltrated, what the hell is that place called? Makusa? Is that the magic place?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the magical
Congress of the United States.
All right.
Well, there's an A in there, though.
I think that's just the MA of magical.
Okay. Yeah, I knew there was...
USA?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was MACUSA. I didn't know it was just MA for magical, but okay.
I believe so.
All right, so you think he has followers or insiders inside, or you think he just weaseled his way in on his own?
Well, it's always possible. The way that Voldemort usurped the Ministry in Britain was very subtle. And I think it's one of the reasons that I happen to like how she wrote The Rise of a Dictator and a Conqueror. It was not that he just flat out walked in or came up with an army to take on the other army. It was covert, it was almost diplomatic, it was political, it was using the system against itself and pulling the strings from behind rather than having to sit on the throne himself. So it's very possible that he has other people in the American Ministry of Magic doing the same thing.
I mean, we can assume he's going to get out in the next couple movies, if not the next movie, right?
He's got to get out at some point.
Yeah, the culmination, I mean, to jump ahead a little bit, but then I'll come back. The culmination, at least probably the last of these 5 movies, is going to be the, quote, historic, epic battle between Grindelwald and Dumbledore. J.K. has said that the time span for the story arc will be 1926 to 1945. 1945, 1.5 million times in the books, is cited as the year that fight took place. And
that is that where Dumbledore got the
beats him for the Outer Wand.
Wand of
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
he takes the Outer Wand then.
And actually, that's a point I hadn't thought about. By this,
does Grindelwald have the Elder Wand at this point?
Yes,
because he already knows about the Deathly Hallows because he gave the symbol to what was it, the Credence?
Yeah,
he's very young when he steals it.
Yeah. So the portrayal of it's like a flashpoint. You barely even see it in Deathly Hallows, the film, but there's a quick moment where they show what's his name, Jamie Bowers played young Grindelwald for no lines and 2 seconds of screen time, and they show him as like a young man, like late teenager or early 20s, stealing the wand from the one wand maker, the like German wand maker. I'll think of it later, but
he wasn't
Grigorovich. Yes, Grigorovich.
Yeah.
So he's had it since he was a young man. So that's a good point. If he has the Elder Wand, is he not using it right now?
I don't think he would use the Elder
looks...
Wand as Graves.
Great. Oh yeah,
I think
that would be a pretty big sign that, hey, I'm Grindelwald.
Because it has its, it has a unique, distinct
it's
look.
got those.
No other wand looks like that.
Yeah, but
it would draw questions.
It could, but let's go back to the other theory we just had, which was how did he get into the ministry in the first place? If he's impersonating an existing wizard, he unfortunately needs to keep using that wizard's wand because that will arise suspicion.
Right.
I don't think he would draw attention with the Elder Wand per se because nobody believes in it. Very few people even think it's a real thing or would recognize its look or design, so he'd probably be safe there. It's probably more of a way just to stay clandestine.
Okay. To answer the question that Brian had posed to us, from my end, I believe that if I had to guess, I'd say Grindelwald is actually pulling, kind of what Josh said, pulling all the strings from behind the scenes. And I would not say it's a far cry to assume that he created the Salemers in order to try and spark the existence of another Obscurus, to try and find one, start that whole thing up to try and get somebody that creates one. Because they make it very obvious it's created and suppressing the magic, and he's trying to suppress magic in order to create an Obscurus because he wants one to use it for power.
That's an interesting point. Can I just? I was not actually sure what his end game was.
I was going to ask you that. Was he hoping to harness that power, or like get it himself, or just use it as kind of like, hey, like this guy's on my team, I can send him out?
I think he wants to use him like a weepon. He's
but
grooming him to be his underling, more or less. So if you get him on, if Grindelwald got Credence on his side and believed in what he was doing, he could just point him at someone and say, "Do that, take care of them." That's the impression I got, anyway.
Grindelwald seems like kind of a solo act, though, to me. Like Voldemort had all his Death Eaters and whatnot, but does Grindelwald have like a whole lot of followers? I have no idea.
I mean, he could have been starting to recruit.
That's true, and he is under the impression, just like Newt is, that nobody over the age of 10 has ever survived with an Obscurus. So even up until the point where Credence reveals himself, even Grindelwald / Graves is under the impression that he's looking for a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that he's maybe looking for a stooge or somebody to be a gopher, or he's basically looking kind of like for a Peter Pettigrew. He's looking for a right hand man who can be intimidated but will be loyal.
You're talking about Credence assuming he doesn't have the Obscurus?
Yeah, that's how Grindelwald is treating Credence. How he wants his assistant, but yeah, I guess his end game is.
But he changes his tune as soon as Credence reveals himself.
Well, yeah, because if the actual reason is that he wants that force, which he thought he was going to get from extracting it from a child. Now he realizes, it was actually him. Okay, I'll just take what I can get.
So he was trying to pull it out of him?
Yeah, he wasn't trying to use the child like a gun or anything like that, because it's going to kill the child soon enough either way.
Yes.
Is the way they explain it. I think he wanted to remove the power, kind of the way you see Newt has it.
Mm-hmm.
Has the one Obscurus contained. He wanted to remove that power so that he could use that force himself.
Yeah, because Newt did mention that it was some sort of a, did he call it a virus of sorts?
It feels like it's something that manifests as a reaction. It's an internal manifestation as a reaction to a young wizard trying to suppress their magic.
Suppressing, yeah.
It's
But didn't he mention something that it was a virus of sorts at one point? I thought
I think once it gets created, it becomes parasitic.
that's what it is—a parasite. I was getting
Yeah, it's
parasite
not like
virus
something you
and stuff.
catch from someone else. It's internally created from your own emotions, if you will, and your own body, your own feelings about everything. But once
But that
it's
brings
a part
up-
of you, then it just starts to break your body and your spirit down.
And that comes back to how he could use it. Is his parasites are not necessarily drawn to only a single host. Sure, this person created the Obscurus, but parasites can spread to a different host, just given something to feed off of. And if he could somehow disperse the Obscurus into smaller portions to, say, many people, he could definitely make a bomb out of it of some sort. Like a wizard bomb. Not a bomb, but
Wizard bomb.
something that where the Obscurus would infect or latch on to several people as opposed to just one. And Credence, having been older, would have given him that opportunity because it was a much more powerful Obscurus than any other that supposedly had ever been encountered.
Yeah, or at the very least, even if he was not able to do that, or that wasn't his goal, if he has the loyalty and control of Credence, and he can have, instruct him to unleash that force on whatever target he wants, Grindelwald wants him to, whenever he wants him to, I'm sure that would have been a great weapon to have.
Because you would think it would probably only work with Credence, right? Like, if you take that out of Credence and say Grindelwald tries to bring it and make the Obscurus go into himself, and then he can sort of channel that. If the whole reason it works is because you're suppressing magic, and he's going around using magic, that kind of contradicts itself, right? So it wouldn't
I don't
work.
think
Good point.
I don't think it's the only reason that it works is you're suppressing the magic. The only reason it gets created is the suppression.
Yeah, but it's not like Credence was going around waving a wand at people.
Well, I don't think that what he's trying to do is take it within himself. Like I say, I think what he's trying to do is simply contain it, that, like I said, the way Newt had it contained,
Mm-hmm.
and then use it. Perhaps it has the ability to also suppress magic in hosts that are not the original. There's a lot of things that perhaps
So
he's trying to maybe experiment with it to find out what the hell you can actually do with an Obscurus.
So
Right.
with that
It seems
train
like
of thought,
he's pretty
you could-
knowledgeable of it.
with that train of thought, you could effectively neuter a magician by infecting them with the parasite.
Perhaps that's the goal. I don't, maybe that's his goal to go
Interesting
after
hypothesis.
Dumbledore, as he knows he can't beat him heads up. And he says, but if I can get rid of his magic, I can win.
That's an interesting
So,
point.
it's just a theory, but
So
Given the rate we theorized about Star Wars, and we were all completely wrong, this is going to be fun.
yeah.
When all these other movies come out.
none of
these
us
are
is
all
going to be
theories,
right
yeah.
here. But
So, Brian, did we answer that question?
I think as well as we could.
well, the
So I
question
have a
was, how
question-
did he infiltrate? And I don't know. I think it's Polyjuice Potion. I think that's how he infiltrated, but who can be sure?
I mean, it could
So-
be Polyjuice and followers. Who knows?
I didn't quite catch what Grindelwald said to Newt when he was being taken away in the shackles. He said something about being dead or death, or I can't remember what. I didn't quite catch that part of the movie. I was just curious if you guys knew what it was.
After the second time, I realized I didn't hear it that clearly either. So, on the third go around, it sounds because it's John. Look, I love me some Johnny Depp,
It's
but sometimes,
it's kind of under his
when he
breath
goes
and-
for those
and, like, it's
really
very,
affecting characters, and he gives them those certain speech patterns, it can be difficult to hear him sometimes.
yeah.
I think he said it almost sounded like he said when we die a bit, or when a part of us dies. It really, to me, sounded like he started a sentence that he didn't finish.
Right. But it seemed like Newt got it.
Or there, yeah, exactly.
Like,
There was something he was.
There was
inferring
something
from it.
that, right, and Newt got the reference.
Yeah,
you know,
which totally went over my head.
that totally me too. That's what I was curious if you guys caught the reference or not, or
In
if
all
that's
honesty,
something
I had a
that's
hard
to be
time-
revealed.
I had a hard time listening to certain lines of dialogue. I couldn't. Eddie Redmayne, I think some of the stuff he was saying just went over my head. I couldn't grasp what he was saying. The line you're talking about specifically, I have no idea what was said.
How about the performance from Eddie Redmayne? I thought he did a really good job. The last movie I saw him in was Jupiter Ascending, and he was fucking creepy as hell, man.
Did you
Did you guys see that movie?
No, I haven't
Holy
seen that
crap.
one. Did you watch Theory of Everything?
No.
Amazing.
He's fucking awesome in that movie.
The Oscar that he got for that was well earned.
So it's worth a
Oh,
watch.
frick yes.
The quote, according to the screenplay, is "We all die just a little."
That's it. But it even so, that still sounds like the beginning of a thought that is not finished.
Right.
So
That's how the screenplay was wrote. So I don't know what exactly the whole intent of it is, but
I'm wondering if it doesn't have something to do with the Obscurus, because Newt would be the only other person that would have similar knowledge as Grindelwald would, because it's obvious that Grindelwald knows about the Obscurus, and maybe how to manipulate it. So maybe he knew that Newt also knew things about it. So
Well, he
I was
obviously-
thinking it was.
When he was
Yeah.
impersonating Graves, he found the Obscurus in the case, right?
Yes.
So he knew
Yeah.
Newt was studying it.
That's right. He knew that Newt may be on the same wavelength as far as figuring out what exactly it could do,
I mean,
and if it was necessarily bad.
that can go back to the magic bomb, and perhaps removing people's magical abilities all at once. And he says, "We all die just a little." His plan is to remove just a little from everybody.
yeah, it's possible.
It's a crazy theory, I think, but it's it's theories.
So he's hoping for a Muggle maker.
Now hold on. We're in America now.
We're
It's
gonna-
the no
we're
match
gonna have
maker.
to check the Black
Oh, the
Friday
no
sales,
matchmaker
but,
thing.
that definitely sounds like something you pick up at like H.H. Gregg, but
Yeah.
yes, it's a quick little
Oh.
Easter egg. Going through the Fantastic Beasts book from a few years ago again, just going through it today. The fictional wizard publishing company that quote printed Fantastic Beasts all over the years is called Obscurus Books.
hmm
There's little things like that peppered all throughout it. It's actually really fun.
I was going to say that Josh probably knows this for sure, so I can pose it to Brian and Andrew as our first trivia question, because he just was holding the book in his hand. But in Fantastic Beasts, the book, it is revealed what part of the UK that Hogwarts is actually in. Do you know?
I don't know
Or
that.
could you guess?
No, geography is not my strong suit, so I could not even venture a guess.
Andy?
pff. Yeah, I'm not real familiar with UK geography. Wales?
Scotland.
Damn it.
Oh, I should have got that.
It's Ron's writing in the book, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Ron's writing in the book that reveals that. Like, there's writing in the book as if it were a textbook somebody was taking notes in,
Oh, okay. I got you.
and in one of those it makes reference to Hogwarts being in Scotland.
I want to ask, sort of follow up with the whole Grindelwald Obscurus thing.
Okay.
When they finally kill Credence,
Yes.
do you think he's gone for good, or do you think he's coming back?
No, because you see the Obscurus. It's much smaller, but it actually like floats away beyond the horizon at the end, and Newt sees
Yeah, I
that.
think that was that last little wisp that you saw go away.
Yeah, I don't think
Did
we've
it go
seen-
away, or did it go behind the building? Did it disperse?
I think you just saw it go out
It
of
looked to me
sight.
like it went. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's gone.
I'm gonna pose a theory that it's at least he is gone, and it is because this property is made by Warner Brothers. And Ezra Miller, who I will also, speaking of performances, I will give a shout out to him. I thought he did amazing.
Yeah, he's been pretty good in everything I've seen.
Exactly. He is, playing for the moment, playing these small peppered parts in the DC universe now as the Flash, and he's definitely in the ensemble as the Justice League. And then once they figure out their director problems, they are supposed to have a standalone Flash movie starring him. Given all of that, I am going to doubt that he will be returning into this franchise. And in fact, I almost wonder, like, the real cynical part of me wonders if Warner Brothers at any point saw, like, because I mean, do you remember DC announced their movie schedule like a year or two ago, and at that point they were like, "Oh, you're going to get a Flash movie 4 to 5 years from now." And so I'm wondering if in the in between, either they had like an overall picture deal with Ezra Miller, or they thought, "Hey, we can fit you into here within this Fantastic Beasts movie in the meantime," as I don't want to say a consolation, because again, I think he crushed his role, but just as a little thing to hold him over until they could really get into the meat and potatoes of the Flash. But given his upcoming schedule for that, I would be very surprised if like the character of Credence in any form is coming back.
Well, I mean, what else does anybody? Do you know what else he has scheduled? Because like Justice League is done filming, right?
Yeah.
So they haven't done Flash yet, which they got to get a director before they can film for Flash. And if he doesn't have too much on his schedule, I don't think it would put it past him to be able to at least come back for some sort of cameo. It doesn't have to be a big role. But even after seeing this movie, if he shows up in the next one and you just see his face and you know he's still floating around somewhere, that's enough to give people like, oh shit, he's still there.
Chris Pine had enough time to do Wonder Woman and the last Star Trek movie.
Oh, point taken.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I guess I'm wondering, do you... Okay, well, you know what? I stand perhaps corrected immediately, because on his IMDb page, he does have Fantastic Beasts 2 listed right after The Flash. But
Okay,
spoiler alert.
But I will say, I can't really see any story purpose to continue him. I mean, no offense to him or his character. I'm not that much more interested to know what happens to him or his Obscurus. Like, I feel it was wrapped up nicely. We have a resolution, unless he became of paramount importance for some reason. I don't really need to see more.
I'm kind of thinking though that Grindelwald chasing the Obscurus would be like the driving force behind the franchise, maybe, because there's so much we don't really know about them, and there's so much that Newt wants to know about them.
It's okay. It's
possible.
possible.
You mean following the Obscurus stuff?
Yeah,
could be. I mean, given that that's part of the idea of this franchise that I love, is that we have no idea what's about to happen next.
right.
The Harry Potter books were out there, and if you read them ahead of time, you knew what was going to happen, and they didn't really stray at all. So you knew what was coming. Here we have no clue, and I love the idea that we can conjecture about what's coming next, because if he's signed on for the movie, he's going to appear in some way, and it's just a matter of, did he survive? Is it going to be a flashback scene?
Oh,
Is
yeah, it could be a flashback, yeah.
What are we going to get out of it? And I think the Obscurus is definitely going to play a bigger role than just than say the Erumpent,
Mm-hmm.
like it appeared in the movie and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we're going to get that bigger role, but to what extent, I don't know. It's hard to say. Is that going to be the driving evil in the real source of power for Grindelwald, or is it going to be his next chase for something different of power? He gives up on the Obscurus and starts going after something else.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to latch on to something you said a second ago, but then take a little kind of a hard left turn there. The point that there is no source material to go from. There's no worry that, it's not that you don't know what's coming next. The third show that I saw today was with somebody who was on their second viewing, and we both agreed on the same thing, that it's nice not to sit and watch the movie. It's nice to not leave the theater and immediately start pissing and moaning about the book.
Yeah.
It is such a breath of fresh
Yeah.
air that you have all this brand new stuff that you're completely ignorant of. You're learning it all for the first time. It's like fresh new eyes again. It's all exciting again, but you don't have that annoying conversation that you have with 7 different people at different times about the same thing, about, well, what subplots did they cut and why do you think they made that decision? Was it a studio thing? Was it a consideration of effects or budget? Oh, I really wish they would have kept that character. I really like this event. Why did they do? It was nice not to do that.
And I think that's the case with a lot of big blockbusters that they do these days. You look at the big summer blockbusters we have right now, it's mostly comic book movies. We had, the Harry Potter franchise, Star Trek, Star Wars, and there's a lot of expectations behind all of these. And with something that it's tied to a universe but completely new, I think, it is really a breath of fresh air to have something that is entirely new like that has that huge movie feel to it. Like there's good movies out there that are new material here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still somewhat rare for these types of movies, but
I don't know, The Force Awakens kind of did that. I mean, it's pretty much new material tied to a pretty significant franchise.
We can have that conversation another time. But The Force Awakens is a lot of recycled material.
Oh, I granted, but it's a new concept, really.
Yeah, but there's expectations, though. I mean,
You're saying there wasn't
There's
expectations for
there's
Fantastic Beasts?
expectations. There's
No, I mean-
expectations for the Harry Potter world.
There is, but there's no characters that we've really dealt with before. Whereas Star Wars, we're dealing with the story continuing of at least Luke and Leia moving forward. We were dealing with Han and Chewie again.
We already
And-
know Grindelwald. We already know Newt. We already know Dumbledore.
A bit. Actually,
Right, but
well, let me interject because I think I can steer this to a good place. Andy, have you read the books or did you just see the movies?
I read all the Harry Potter.
Okay. So you know that background. Did you? And maybe Brian, maybe you're the best one to direct this question to. Then, do you feel that you were lost in the story? Was there so much that you think you needed to know to understand what people were talking about, or did the story they present, was it for brand new eyes enough that even if you were just a casual Harry Potter movie viewer, or maybe if you were walking in completely cold to this, did it feel like you had to have already been knee deep in this stuff to really follow much of it, or were you fine the whole time?
Well, before I answer, I'm just going to say, going back to what you mentioned about seeing this and feeling like it's all new and everything and, not questioning the book and comparing to the book. That's how I felt watching every Harry Potter movie because I didn't read the books.
Oh, good point.
Blasphemy, I know. But that's where I'm coming
Okay.
from. So just with that knowledge of the movies, yeah, I was a little lost with some of the stuff that came up in this movie. Basically just character names. Like, I don't know who Grindelwald is.
Okay.
And that seemed like it carried a lot of weight just from talking to you and other people that I know are fans of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
That name had history to it, which I don't know.
Okay.
So when they're throwing around Grindelwald, I don't know the importance of that person, other than he's a bad guy.
Do you want any of
And-
that explained to you, or would you like to experience that as the sequels go on?
I don't know if
I don't
they're
know,
going
I'm a
to
little
explain all of it.
Torn, actually.
Well, let me at least just say why you probably don't know it. That was a major subplot that was completely cut out of the last movie. The
Last
fair
two.
enough.
well, as a
They had
two-parter,
two movies.
Yeah.
Two whole movies, they could have covered this.
It-
you
Oh,
had
yeah,
4
I thought they
hours,
did a-
this
Yeah.
could have been covered.
I thought they did a piss poor job of adapting the Deathly Hallows book.
Yeah, like they hit the
Well, maybe not a piss poor job, but they left a lot of really good meaty stuff out.
They did, and like this kind of, I would call it quote important stuff to your storytelling. The relationship between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, their youth, Dumbledore's past, his impact on the wizarding community in the 1900s. There's a lot to that. So in the Deathly Hallows movie, you literally get the moment that we said earlier where you see Jamie Bowers for 2 seconds stealing the wand when he's like 19 years old. And then for another 2 seconds, you see Voldemort visiting Grindelwald in his cell in prison as he's an extremely old man. And I think this is at the end of... Yeah, this is all encompassed within Deathly Hallows Part 1 of the films. And Grindelwald is the one that tells Voldemort the Elder Wand lies with Dumbledore. And then Voldemort wisps out the window and it's never mentioned again.
Okay.
If you were to read the book, you like that could take up 20% of the book. Like the importance of their relationship and their history, why he's involved, how he actually is very intricate to the Voldemort story itself. So that's a reason that you don't know that, because they did a very bad job in telling that the first time.
So I was just thinking, just now that you're explaining all this to me, and that it was seemed like a crucial part of the book, that if the story meeting for the movie somehow went, well, should we put this subplot in? And they said, no, we'll make a prequel out of it. And now that one prequel's coming out, it's like, you know what? Let's make it 5.
Yeah, maybe because they realized they need to flesh it all out.
I don't think they're actually going to do that, though. I don't think we're going to get the fleshed out story of Grindelwald and Dumbledore at any point here. You're going to get the battle, and I think it's going to be that, Dumbledore shows up on screen for the final battle moment, and that's about it.
I mean, they have to know that if you're setting up this battle, you have to flesh out the story before the battle.
If they have, let's say, 3.5...
It's just the two best wizards of the time.
If they have 3.5 more movies to get to that battle, which is going to be, I would assume would be the climax in a lot of ways of the fifth part. I'm presuming that you'll get introduced to whoever is taking over the role of young Dumbledore in this first sequel 2 years from now. But you have time to tell it in flashbacks. You have time to do that while advancing your other story arcs that might involve Newt or others.
But my thing with that is, I don't necessarily think we're going to get a young Dumbledore. Because, as you already said, they're 80... What did you say, 80?
About 80.
About roughly 80 years old at the time of this movie, which means at the time of the climax, they're roughly 100 years old.
Yeah, but look how good Johnny Depp is supposed to look at 80.
Right. But I'm saying, I honestly think they would be more apt to probably either have already or very soon film that final battle now, with Michael Gambon looking much younger.
Yeah, they can do a lot of effects that would make him look Johnny Depp's age, I'm sure.
Right. But because that fifth movie is probably at least 8 years away.
Yeah.
And Michael Gambon's not exactly a young buck, so I would think they would film it now with him, get it filmed, because we already lost one Dumbledore.
True.
And get it filmed, get it done, have him look, roughly that age that they're looking for, because it's not the actual age that they're looking for, because obviously 100 looks a lot older than that. And I could see them very much filming that now.
Is he signed on for more movies?
I don't think... I
have no idea.
I'm actually thinking they're going to go the other route, where they're going to have a middle-aged, like an actor about 45 to 55 years old, cast for that role for a few iterations. Now, Dumbledore might not be a major character and major player in the main plots of the next couple, but he will be integral enough that it's necessary to have him there to further the plot between him and Grindelwald.
I was just going to say two things. I think I did read that they are rumored to be looking for, if they're not casting him yet, but they're at least looking for a younger type actor, to, or at least someone to play a younger Dumbledore, not necessarily a younger actor,
Right.
but someone to play him in that time period. And the second thing I read, I think just today, was that it might even been J.K. Rowling said that Newt Scamander is not going to be a main character in some of these other sequels.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
kind of assumed
So he
that,
might be put aside to the
Yeah.
supporting to make room for the Dumbledore story or something like that.
Well, what my whole thing was, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it the case that after, I won't spoil anything for Brian, but after what happens in the books early on between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, don't they kind of go through a hiatus where they kind of meet back up for that battle?
Yeah, they don't see each other from the time that they're like 20 years old. What is it like? It's either
Right.
it's like 18 to 20 years old where that tragic event happens,
Story.
and
Yeah.
then
I
they
think I know what that tragic event is.
as the way as far as it is explained in Deathly Hallows, yeah, they don't actually physically meet each other again until almost 80 years later, I would say, until he has to actually fight him down.
Right. So, I mean, I would see Dumbledore's story taking place very much separately. And I don't think that we're going to get a whole lot of the British side to what's going on. I think they're going to stay in the U.S. for this. I think they're going to further establish what that universe is like here.
Or I would love if she jumped
And-
around.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If she does that, and we get a Durmstrang year and a Beauxbaton's year or something like that, that would be interesting.
Or just something.
Um,
And the thing that I liked about this movie was that, two things. It wasn't just taking place at school. It was, it didn't have to feel like a school year. And everything that happens is with trained, veteran, adult wizards. So
Yes.
not everything is this, like, we're still kind of sloppy, kind of learning spells and magic. It's ready to go wizards with just like full out, reflexes.
Yeah, you're off and running already.
Does definitely a different flavor.
Yeah, compared to what we've seen in general, like Newt seemed kind of like a badass in a lot of ways because of what
Oh,
we've seen in the
definitely.
previous films. He's very quick with his wand. He's very,
Mhm.
open about it. But
Yeah, as was everybody. Like I will say, there was something about this. Again, maybe taking a hard right turn, but even if you take out the magic stuff of this and the creatures aspect, all that, this movie, in my opinion, this movie was charming as all hell. The set design, the costumes, the speech patterns, like especially of a character like Queenie, like they nailed what I would feel like 1920s New York felt like. Like
Yeah.
they nailed a period piece tremendously.
well,
And I think that
One of the
that
things-
aided a lot.
one of the things I noted myself, specifically, was kind of the attitude difference that you see between American witches and wizards and British, in that, in first and foremost, their relation to Muggles and Nomads, being that the
Muggle
British
maker.
are very the British are very accepting
Keep
of
plugging that, Andy.
the
Oh, I'm releasing
Muggles.
that shit next year.
that they're not so off put by them the way that say Voldemort was, but they accept them. They are perfectly fine with interrelationships and things like that. In the U.S., it's completely off limits
Yeah, there was
to the point
there
that
was there were a couple things that I think she blatantly wrote as contemporary parallel criticisms of American culture.
Well, see, the other end of that is I have that I maybe not a lot of people noticed it as much as I did, but it came off to me that it was a parallel because they were worse to Muggles, but they treated house elves a hell of a lot better. that the house elves had clothes. They had jobs that they weren't just servants in homes. Um, they weren't dressed in pillowcases.
There were a
like,
few if you spotted them, but yeah, I mean, in general, there was not a general mood of disdain for them. They weren't viewed that way automatically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in Harry Potter's universe in Britain, it's supposed to be, Dobby's like the first free elf. So he wears. That was one thing I really wish they would have done with Dobby that they didn't. It endeared him so much more for wearing 30 hats at one time, and the things that he would do. It made his death, much more impactful that when they endeared him more over the course.
Yeah, that really lacked in the movie, the impact.
Well, it was the whole course of the movies. I mean, Hermione's whole thing with Spew and everything. It was just like they just cut out Dobby after the second movie, and we're like, oh, we're going to bring him back eventually, but we're not going to cover his whole story throughout. And I feel like they could have, but they didn't, because it's just snippets. He doesn't have to be there much. But I felt like that it was just an interesting contrast that they treat Muggles worse, but they treat house elves better. And, at first when I thought about it with just the Muggles thing, it was like, she is making a statement about contemporary U.S. issues. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of thought about it like, but the house elves are treated better, so it's kind of confusing.
True.
So they just have completely different attitudes about things in the U.S. than they do in Britain.
Yeah.
So
did you also?
I think you're
Did you also catch that the U.S. has the U.S. magical community has capital punishment, whereas Britain does not? They'll put Bellatrix Lestrange and Sirius, even though Sirius was innocent, they believed him not to be. They'll put them in prison for life, but
they won't.
But they won't kill them. But this ministry had almost like a lobotomy-looking procedure.
It was fucked up.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the Draught of Living Death.
Is that what you think?
I mean, that's what that was. Well, yeah. When she drops in she drops something into it.
The memory.
That was the thing. It was like.
No. She took off like a strap of clothing or something like that. Like it was the tie. It was his tie, wasn't it? That she drops off something she takes off of him in the water, and it burns away the same way that the Draught of Living Death does.
Really?
It's the same effect.
Oh, okay, I'll have to pay attention next time I see it, because I didn't catch that. To me, the first thing I noticed was they put their wands up to the prisoners' temples and extract something just like the pensive.
like the...
And then they
like
drop
the Dumbledore's
those memories in there to entice them to go in.
To get in.
And that's why I kind of felt like a lobotomy to me, is that it looked like, affecting the frontal lobe is how you do a lobotomy, and she initially, at least at first, went very, like, blank and empty looking. But yeah, but that when they deposit that memory, those memories into the pool, if you will, that's exactly how a pensive works. So is there like a combination of like pensive and Draught of Living Death? I guess I could buy that. I didn't take it that way.
Well, like the pool doesn't really get nasty until that wand gets incorporated. Like the wand gets dropped into the pool, and then the pool just gets this like aggressive.
Yeah, it goes like Ghostbusters 2 hand coming out of the
slime in the bathtub.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally what I got too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it could be what you're saying, like the mix of the two, but it's also, we don't know what happens when a memory that you would put in a Ponzi goes into Draught of Living Death.
Yeah, and what do you think? What do you think happens once somebody gets lowered into that? Like, assuming
that would be cool to like find out,
right? Like, assuming that the gelatin hand encapsulating thing doesn't happen. And it's just, like, if it seemed like normally the idea is you put these memories in this pool to entice people to want to go in, they sit in the little chair, the chair takes them into the pool, and then what? They drown?
They die.
Right, but like how?
I was going to say,
are they burned?
I don't
think,
drown?
I think, are they...
I think, well, if it is the Draught of Living Death, it's it
Is it Liquid Avada Kedavra?
yeah, kind of like it just kills whatever comes into it instantly.
So it is sort of like think of it almost like a lava or an acid type of thing. It's a material. It's like
It's material
death
disintegration.
spell in material.
Right. But doesn't that, I mean, you kind of see it in the movie with Sirius Black where the spell actually separates his soul from his body. Is that like liquid form of that?
Oh,
What that happened because of that archway.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is this like a manifestation of the Archway's magic?
oh, interesting. I don't know.
That's a thought. It's possible. My thought was more, but like what keeps popping into my head is if you're going to have a death sentence, other than for the effect of having a cool scene in the movie, isn't the killing curse just enough? I mean, it's quick, it's humane, it's simple.
Right, but isn't that the exact, not criticism, but the exact way that you want to paint the picture? Even, American capital punishment is not firing squad by bullet in the brain.
That's which
we have lethal injection, we have the gas chamber, we've had the electric chair, all those other hanging. Even like we have these quick means where
We're
you can
sadistic.
yeah, in a way. So, I mean, maybe that's as a Brit, maybe that's another way that she saw it, where you could just do that, but then wouldn't that make you the killer? This way, you got somebody to effectively kill themselves.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. The whole thing was creepy because it was kind of like a nurse too doing it, and
Which is why I was thinking
I don't
know.
a lot of
it seemed like a mental asylum type of a thing.
yeah. I was thinking like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and what was that bad Zack Snyder movie?
A Batman v Superman.
No, the one with
Man of
the
Steel.
girls in the Sucker Punch.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Thinking
yeah.
those.
Oh, that one.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty messed up.
So I have a question about the Lestrange
Mm-hmm.
reference. Is that the grandmother of Bellatrix?
Well, keep in mind. Okay, so my wife and I had like a half-hour discussion about that thing alone afterward because
Right, because we
Bella-
see a little bit of that lineage with the Sirius Black lineage when it's like painted on the wall, right?
well,
Aren't they
Bellatrix
sort of
marries
related?
in to the Lestrange family later on. She is
Okay.
actually a Black.
Right.
Uh,
Okay. So that's why we see her on the wall at the Black.
Yes, and so she marries someone named Rodolphus Lestrange. So this person, this Lita Lestrange, could potentially be Rodolphus's mother or grandmother. At the same time, I mean, because she if as a teenager, if she already has that name, she's born into it. She's not married into it. So,
Right.
but at the same time, if the Lestrange family is big enough, she could just be any other random female member of the family. It doesn't mean she has direct lineage to even Bellatrix's husband.
Okay.
But yeah, we went back and forth on that for a while too. We
Or-
sketched out family trees and stuff.
Lestrange could just be the Jones of the Magic universe. We.
Oh, that's true.
I mean,
Was that-
it's obviously used for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I-
they're not going to name her Lestrange and not explain that at some point.
Yeah,
Right.
and
I thought
If
I
they
recognized
don't-
the actress that they showed in the picture.
It's
Was that Lenny Kravitz's
Zoe, yeah.
daughter?
Yes. Yeah, that was
So
Zoe
she's-
Kravitz.
You would think that they would probably end up using her for
Oh,
sequels
yeah.
then if they cast someone that big,
yeah, they
right?
will.
I don't think they cast her just to be in the picture.
Right.
If
yeah.
if that's what
I
you're saying.
thought I thought that was her, but I couldn't. It was like just like a passing shot.
It's one of those pictures that came with the frame. They figured out later.
It came with our CGI frame. We'll just put someone else in when we really need them.
And speaking of lineage, I can bring my second Stump Josh question for Harry Potter. Hey, but this one actually I'll throw out for Josh. There's one link in family lineage between Harry and Voldemort. Who is it? One common ancestor.
Peveril.
Which one?
Well, neither, because one brother goes to Voldemort, the other brother goes to the Potters. So it would actually be their parents.
There was 3 brothers.
Right, but one of the 3. If I understood it, their commonalities don't trace both back to one of them. Maybe I'm mistaken. I thought one of the 3 brothers, if you follow him, you end up at the Gaunts and you end up at Voldemort. If you follow the other brother, you end up at the Potters. I could be wrong about that, though.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right about that, but I have the name.
Well, I know there was Ignotus, there was Cadmius, and the third is escaping me right now.
Okay, well,
Which one of the Deathly Hallows did Ignotus have?
Ignotus had the cloak. Ignotus was
cloak.
the Harry.
Right.
Okay.
And I feel like Cadmius had the stone, but I don't recall.
Yes,
So
Cadmus
we're
had the
missing-
stone.
So the one that
wand.
had the wand initially is the one I
Wand.
can't think of.
That's the one that went to Voldemort.
Okay.
Cadmus is the one that's to both of them. Because Cadmus's lineage, if you trace back, even if you go from brother to brother, you know, Harry's lineage comes from here, his from here, the brother and their parents on back.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, once you got to the 3 brothers' parents, that's, like, to me, that would be their common ancestry, but if they're being bred out of sort of different brothers' lineage, then it wouldn't be one of them.
Okay. I can accept that.
I'll allow it.
You have passed the test.
You can just the umbrella, the Peveril family
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
I'd have to look at the whole family tree again to see exactly where that intersection is, but I had it wrote down as Cadmus. I thought that was the...
Well, I could absolutely
Specific answer.
be forgetting some detail that proves you right.
Well, it could be that Cadmus is their father, and that
It might be.
you're missing 2 of the Peveril brothers' names.
Yeah.
I think that
So-
might be the case, or something. But go ahead.
I'm going to switch topics on
Do
us
it.
here, because there's other cast members I don't think we touched on yet. And how has no one brought up frickin' Dan Fogler as Jacob yet?
Oh, he was awesome.
I loved him
laughed
so
every
much.
time he was on screen. Yeah.
They all were. This cast was great. Like I said, going back to like saying this was a charming movie. I liked the fact that I didn't really know who anybody was. Like, I recognized Dan Fogler. I know who Colin Farrell is, obviously. John Voight, who I don't know really why he was there. But
He's got to have a bigger role later.
I'm hoping,
Yeah.
right?
Doesn't he seem like a Jonah Jameson type
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
character?
But like the other characters who played, the other actresses who played Tina and Queenie,
yeah.
like, I loved everybody. And yeah, Jacob, I was so pissed that that's how they ended up with him.
He's got to come back,
Yeah.
right?
Well, okay, so Queenie sees him at the end,
Yeah,
right?
How did you read
And
that?
she gets a really, really big smile. Like, so she can read his mind because she's a
Legilimens.
I can't remember
Legilimens.
the term for it.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
could
so
very
sh-
maybe put
So
memories
she
back.
knows that there's something. Well, we already know that there's something in his head still because he's making those fucking creatures out of his fucking donuts. But
They're not
she
fantastic
reads his mind,
creatures.
and the
They're
smile
fucking
that she
creatures.
gets leads me to believe
Delicious
that she
creatures.
knows that she is in there.
Oh, that
That he remembers
that is
her.
really insightful.
Sure.
I had not put that together.
And the whole thing with Queenie, that there was something there that bothered me,
What was that?
and it also leads into the potential for her to put the memories back
Huh.
into his head. Is that even in the books, they did not particularly explore the true powers that lie with a Legilimens.
Okay.
In that, especially in this case, because what you have going on here essentially is the assumption that based on the evidence we have that either Voldemort was hiding his power as a Legilimens, or that Queenie, this random girl from the 20s, is a more powerful Legilimens than Voldemort was.
Was Voldemort a legitimist, or was it just the connection between him and Harry that are you talking
No,
about?
No, Voldemort was a
he was
Legilimens.
too. But I didn't take Legilimens as such a rare thing like Parseltongue. Like it was a particular thing that only exceptional or very gifted, powerful people could have, and if you can wield it, that I mean, that's how I've never taken it that way. But if it is, go ahead and flesh it out.
Well, I think it's the same way as, Harry's Expelliarmus spell is a lot more powerful than other people's. He just had each, and Ginny with the Reducto.
Okay.
I think they each kind of have the things that they're best at. They feel this spell and Harry's Patronus. There's certain things that each wizard can excel at, and potentially any wizard can be a Legilimens.
Right.
It is a spell, but I feel like there's certain things that people excel at, and that basically they're saying that, once again, to me, saying that she has this power like this and displays it so freely and is obviously so strong with it, she can read your direct thoughts instantly. It doesn't require the type of penetration that it took for Voldemort to read into Harry's mind or into somebody else's mind.
You said penetration.
Thank you, Brian. But I mean, that's really the word that you have to use, I think, because it does require that, I'm going to say it again, even though you're going to say something.
You're breaking
it
the
requires
circle.
a forcible entry into somebody's mind. It does. It requires that into somebody's mind. For any other Legilimens that you experience, which is pretty much Voldemort. And that's why Snape practices occlumency, and to keep him out so he can continue to play both sides, even though he's really only playing one, and all that. So the idea that she is such a powerful Legilimens to be able to do this stuff instantly with no resistance whatsoever is, I don't know. To me, that's diminishing the power that Voldemort was wielding.
Well, remember, and I'm with you about halfway. So remember, there were many times, especially with Muggles, that so the opening to the Book of Goblet of Fire. They're at his family's old house. The gardener comes in to find them. The gardener tells them, my wife knows I'm here, and if I don't come back, she'll call the cops. And Voldemort immediately says, you're lying, you have no wife, nobody knows you're here. So, on the one hand, maybe it is easier, and this is when Voldemort is still like an alien fetus baby thing.
But didn't Voldemort know him?
No. Well, no, I would say he didn't.
Yeah?
No, because I
thought he did.
He was the gardener at the time that Voldemort returned when he was 17 to kill his parents.
He's a pretty old man.
But to have kept up on one particular Muggle's family and life track all that time, I would doubt it. But here's my point.
I think it's a power of assumption there.
Well, maybe, but
because he's still a gardener as an old man working in the same place he was back then. How much has his life changed if he's still working as he's still doing what he's doing?
Well, there are other instances that they point out through the books that Voldemort has mostly, other than Harry and Snape perhaps, a mostly instantaneous ability to know whether someone is lying here or not. What I think is the more interesting possibility is, and I thought this is where you were going to go a few minutes ago, does Queenie have the ability, like Voldemort did in Order of the Phoenix? He got into Harry's mind, made him think that he had Sirius locked away at the Ministry, and then therefore Harry sprang into action to go save him. Could
Right.
you also could Queenie implant visions or memories, if you will? Could she use the power of Legilimens so much to make someone believe that something had happened in the past and create a memory in their mind? So therefore filling filling Jacob back in on some of the experiences they had and drawing them back together. I would like to see that, or if they just said that in exposition, I would buy it.
There's also a possibility that Queenie departs from the magical universe and decides to make a life with him because she's in love with him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
You know, just leaves it all behind, says, all right, screw you people that don't want to let me have the man I love, even though he's a nomad. And
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
I really hope they hang on to those two for like supporting cast for sequels because I like them.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really, other than that, I don't know where they go with them. Yeah, I mean, because
Right.
especially if Newt isn't going to be back for all of these, then I don't see them coming back either.
I could see her sister being a pretty major player.
See, I'm not saying Newt's not going to come back. I'm just saying he's not going to be the main character. You might get him as
Right.
a supporting role for all four of these movies, but
Right, that's
it
what I'm
could
saying.
just
Any movie he's a supporting role in, I don't see them having the people that were the supporting cast for him also playing a supporting role.
right, yeah.
I feel like anything that he is in, that we're gonna have Tina back again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that actress a lot. I think both her and Eddie Redmayne played brilliantly off each other in creating, like Eddie Redmayne's just constant, like he was strong, but he was reserved and twitchy and hesitant in his speech patterns, and like I think both of them just created these characters from the ground up out of nowhere, and I absolutely love their portrayal. But Tina, I think you're definitely going to get back because they've established her as a love interest. But
Yeah.
also spoilers at the in the Fantastic Beasts book, in the about the author section, there's like a 1-page description. At the time that this fictitious specific version of Fantastic Beasts was supposed to be getting published, it's like the 52nd edition of the book. So he starts publishing these books like the year after the movie ends. The first one is published in 1927. By the, quote, early 90s that Ron and Harry have the book, it's in its 52nd edition. So there's this about the author section that says that Newt is now retired and he lives in such and such with his wife, Porpentina, and their pets, effectively. And that is her full name.
So that would
That's
be
her
her
full name,
Okay.
Porpentina, yeah.
So, was there anything in this movie that you guys did not like?
I didn't quite understand, and you already said it, I didn't quite understand the subplot or story arc we needed for John Voight and his sons and the newspaper and the senator and all that.
Unless it's a building block.
It better be, otherwise it's going to look really like a sore thumb.
I think
Yeah.
the only reason that Senator was killed was to give you the inkling that Credence was the one that had the Obscurus. It's the only plot point. The only reason I can think of why it's there.
Yeah.
Because you see him push him around when they're at his office. Next time you see him, he gets killed by the Obscurus. You have to be able to connect the dots there that he's the one he pushed. You know, Credence was the one he pushed,
He has the
so
motivation. Yeah.
he's pushing back.
They established a really strange relationship between John Voight and both of his sons, though.
Yeah.
That you would think that would require a little bit more fleshing out if it's only just a little still.
Yeah, I think if John Voight comes back, you're definitely getting the other son to come back too, because that
Right.
there's something else there, like you said.
Because, yeah, it really seems like he might further the whole Salem movement, because he really seemed to believe in it. So maybe
Well,
he will
after
be
they
that.
see the other brother get killed in front of them by some sort of magical creature, like,
Which
I'm pretty sure John
they-
Voight's got to be on board now.
Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
mean, will they remember that?
Yeah.
I was going to say they all just got hit by the
Oh, touche.
Obliviate Rain, so...
Touche.
Which they could bring it back around. So it depends on to what extent and how much a memory charm affects you. So if they
Right.
only reset everybody, 2 or 3 or 4 days,
Those, everyone in that room when the senator gets killed would still remember.
well, it's possible they might not remember that. Like, obviously, his son is still dead, and maybe
He just-
somebody reinvigorates the idea of conspiracy theories or dark forces or something. Anyway, like you said, sort of carrying on the second Salemers march without them really being around anymore. But which speaking of cast and whatnot, Samantha Morton, who plays that lady, the head of the second Salemers, freaking loved her.
Yeah, she was evil and disturbing in a way that, it definitely worked.
She reminded me of Umbridge.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember till afterwards. Sarah reminded me that she was the lead precog in Minority Report. That same actress.
I never would have figured that out.
I said I know her face, and Sarah remembered. Yeah, I thought she.
Yeah, because she was bald in that movie. That
that's
would have
true.
threw me.
And it was like 15 years ago now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
but
I haven't watched that one recently, so I wouldn't have pulled that out.
She was someone else in the cast that I really enjoyed. There was really good casting all around.
Well, speaking of the casting, there was something I read afterwards that kind of, like, the only person that I wasn't thrilled with myself and was Eddie Redmayne.
Really?
Personally.
Okay.
And what I read afterwards was the people they were also thinking about, among them was Nicholas Hoult. And I looked at the role, the way Eddie Redmayne played it, and I said, I think I may have enjoyed it more that way. I think I would have been able to like the character more. Because I feel like Newt came off as kind of a dick a few times. And I think he's supposed
he even says,
to.
like, people don't like him, right?
Yeah.
Like, he flat out tells
does. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, like, I felt myself feeling mixed emotions about whether I was actually rooting for him or not at points. Like, it was, I was, but it was like, I could be rooting for this character more, and I just didn't feel that he had, I don't feel like Eddie Redmayne had the charisma that the character did. The character that was wrote, the character that, with the charisma you want behind that hero, I just didn't feel was there.
According to IMDb, at least, and I don't know how, like, if that is just as fluid as Wikipedia can be, J.K. had him specifically in mind to play that role. So
okay.
I'm sure she carried quite a bit of weight in the casting.
Yeah, I'm sure that she did. I just don't know. I don't know. Like, I felt like there was just a certain amount of charisma missing. Now, that being said, typically with all of the Harry Potter movies, they did fantastic jobs casting the roles. So I'm going to say that that's the way he's kind of supposed to be and be happy with it. It just, I don't know, it didn't 100% work for me. That's all. It just, I wasn't there 100% with that character.
Fair enough. I will say that I saw a complete character. Whether it was what somebody else envisioned or not is obviously subjective, but what he did bring, I saw, like I said earlier, speech patterns, twitches, idiosyncrasies, body language, movement, like the way he ran, the way he shuffled when he had the suitcase. He had deliberate choices for a complete person that he made, and I was at least happy to see that, because I didn't just see Eddie Redmayne on screen. I definitely saw a character of Newt Scamander that he made.
I would agree with that. I'm not cutting down the amount of individuality the character had, but like, to me it's just the charisma that I felt was lacking that you need in a hero. In a side character, like if it was a secondary role, if he was in the role of Jacob, or say Ron to Harry, I feel like it would have been a character that I fell in love with. But as a hero character, I wasn't as sold on it.
Fair enough.
So, this is kind of off topic, but I just realized that we're an hour and a half into this with a movie called Fantastic Beasts,
Yep.
and we haven't talked about any of the beasts. What did you guys think of the creatures?
I think
Did you have a favorite?
I was going to say, what's our favorite creature to go off of here?
Niffler.
Definitely the one. I don't know the name of it. Yeah,
Niffler.
the one that likes the
The
shiny
Niffler,
things. Is that?
yeah.
I want one. Give me it
Yeah.
now.
See, I like the Erumpent, personally. That was my favorite. I thought the
Is that,
Erumpent
is that
was...
the one
the
that escaped
rhinoceros
that he had to
looking
do the mating dance for?
Oh, yeah. Which, by the way, if you weren't aware, that is the creature that's under the ice. For anybody listening who wasn't aware that they show swimming under the ice, that is the Erumpent swimming
Yeah.
there. That's not some other creature that they forgot to touch on or something like that, that you felt
Yeah,
like,
okay.
why? What happened with that? No, that is that. But, yeah, the Niffler was awesome. And the Thunderbird,
Oh, the Thunderbird was magnificent, especially when it
yeah.
got freed at the end there.
I mean, I think if I was going to have one, that's the one I would want because I could ride it. Like, the Niffler's cool, but I feel like the Niffler would just be a pain in the ass to, like,
He
have as a
definitely
pet.
would.
You know, like, that's one you're just going to be chasing around all the time.
Just train him to steal other people's shit, not your own shit.
Yeah, but he's not going to give it to you.
Oh, point taken.
You know, you're going to have to catch his little ass and shake him. And
But he's so cute.
It's a fun little game we play.
But, I mean, if I ride into, I don't know, wherever the hell I'm going on a Thunderbird,
That's a way to make an entrance.
you know, you just, exactly, you just made an
You're
entrance.
like, ah, frick, Mike
So-
Bradley's here.
Yeah.
On his Thunderbird.
Yeah, and then the Thunderbird just eats whoever said that. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
I did a quick count. So one thing I was happy about is there's a number of animals that are contained within the Fantastic Beasts book thing that they published that have been well represented in the past Harry Potter movies. I'm glad that they took an opportunity to develop and envision as many more brand new ones as they could. And as far as I could tell, there's really nothing in short of like a Grindylow, which you barely see for a few seconds in Goblet of Fire, I think. There's really nothing in this that we've already seen. Everything else is new.
You see the Erumpent horn.
Well, but that's
You see the horn. You don't see the animal.
that is true, and you don't actually. Well, yeah, if you know to look for the horn in the movie, it's there, but it doesn't play a role.
Isn't that the reason that in the movie that even still that it blows up?
I didn't think so. I thought
I thought a curse hit it and it blew up the shack.
they might. I took it as the Death Eaters were just like firebombing the hell out of the place, and it just eventually collapsed. It very well could be, but since they don't really discuss why that would have happened or make mention of it in any way, I never took it that way. But yeah, so I counted either 15 or 17 brand new creatures directly from the book, and another at least 2 that I think were brand new creations for this. And actually, the Thunderbird being one of them. The Thunderbird is not in the Fantastic Beasts book.
Oh.
So that was brand new. The Erumpent is in there. The other one that they created brand new that I thought was so cool the way they used it was that swooping evil thing. That like yo-yo thing that went and flew around and did a bunch of stuff for him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really cool thing that they created. Yeah, I mean, I made a list I could go through, but I think my favorite was definitely the Niffler. I'm a sucker for cute little freaking fuzzy things. So as soon as I saw that thing peek its face out, I immediately said, I want 7 of them.
I would say the Niffler's my favorite. The next favorite, I think, would be the little stick figure insect guy that was kind of under his lapels the whole
Oh,
time.
yeah.
I thought he was pretty awesome
The
too.
Bowtruckle.
I
Yeah,
can't remember what.
yeah, the
I
bow
couldn't remember what the hell
Yeah.
it was.
They talk about those a lot in the Harry Potter books, but you never actually see one in one of the movies.
I know, I was so happy that they finally brought many of them into this.
It seemed like they were pretty rare because was he a
Goblin. yeah.
goblin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, is that a?" Because he was like really pumped to see it.
That
What
was
the
Ron
hell was
Perlman,
up with
right?
his?
That was
Really?
Ron Perlman.
That was
Okay.
Perlman, yeah.
And what the hell was up with his fingers?
That they curled backwards.
Oh, they're like bent. Bent
Yeah,
backwards.
the other
Weren't those
goblins
just
at the
his-
bank
weren't-
didn't have that.
Weren't those just his nails?
No,
No, those were his
Like
fingers.
the top
The-
knuckle or two of his fingers started to bend backwards.
Yeah.
So he had been maybe under the torture spell too long.
I was thinking he was kind of a
Or-
gangster. Maybe he got them broken.
Yeah.
That's why you don't crack your knuckles, kids.
I was thinking the same thing that Josh did. Jack Nicholson pulled out a shit kicker and started pounding his hand on a pool table. But
Oh, here you go. The bowtruckle is a tree guardian creature found mainly in the west of England, southern Germany, and certain Scandinavian forests. So American goblins would not see them that frequently, because they're not, I guess, not just plant creatures, but they only sort of exist in certain geographic areas.
There you
all
go.
right.
All right, so I think we should probably start to wind down, just because I think we're going to lose Andy a little
Right,
bit.
what was the other Facebook question? Unless we already hit it.
That was it.
Oh, favorite
Yeah.
creatures?
Well, yeah. There, I think Amy had two. One of them Andy brought up during the course of the discussion, and I presented her other one. So I think that was it. That's all I got.
All right. Do you want me to hit any of my other bullet points real quick? Some of them are discussion pieces. Other ones are just stuff.
Well, I think there was one thing Andy wanted to touch
Oh,
on, so
yeah.
I want to make sure he gets
By all
covered
means.
before we cut him loose.
Yeah, the only gripe I had with the movie was when Newt leaves the silver eggs as collateral. Would you need those as collateral? Couldn't you just buy the fucking store with those? Why would that be collateral? Like, he could
Because
just
they're
turn that
only
into
silver?
money. And
Well,
then,
I not knowing what the 1927 stock market price of silver was.
We don't know what the exchange rate is for silver
And,
eggs.
yeah, and like really, I mean, they seemed heavy, but I don't know how many pounds was there. Maybe it was a good chunk on a down payment, but maybe it wasn't enough for the whole financing.
I was going to say, I mean, even today, if you have like 100-pound bar of silver, you aren't going to be able to open a business in downtown Pittsburgh. Like, it'll get you, very low six figures. But it's not worth enough. If it was gold, yeah, that would be plenty. But silver just isn't going to cut it.
But
So silver's good as a start on collateral, I guess.
yeah, my assumption was that though that was the language, that was the words that had been used in the script previously, so it was just a quick, easy way to
okay.
call back those same ideas, rather than just say, use this to open your business. Yeah, I think they're probably just trying to make that connection again for, I don't know, maybe people who don't, and I hate to say it, as simple as it is, like, who don't know finance terms as well, but they may have grasped the general idea. They just heard the same word and they're like, yes, that will help Jacob's Bakery. Good job, Newt.
I had one thing that I wanted to bring up while Andy's still here, and that is that it's an actual question here, because if you watch Prisoner of Azkaban, and at some point on the Marauders map, I found this when I was researching interesting ideas to talk about. Some point on the Marauders map, Newt Scamander's name turns up on the Marauders map, on that map during the movie in Hogwarts.
I heard the same thing.
What did we think he's doing there at that time?
I never noticed it, and I'm probably going to watch that maybe even tonight before I go to bed. or at least like in the next couple days to see exactly where that appears, because Mike, did you where it was referenced for you? Did it say, like, when the ending credits are scrolling and there's a ton of names that they appear on the map? Was it at that point, or is it like in the middle of the movie when Harry and other people are leafing through the map? Because I think that would be an important point.
It did not say.
Yeah,
Couldn't you just Google that? Maybe they have a time code associated with when his name shows up.
they could. I will just watch the movie and report back next week. But
We'll
Yeah, I
sit through
mean,
the
I think
whole
that's-
2 hours.
My guess would be it seems like he had quite the relationship with Dumbledore that maybe he was just visiting an old friend.
or he could have been there. Yeah, he could be doing that. Consulting on.
Well, how long does he live? Like, would he? How
My-
He was
does he
Yeah,
live the same long as Dumbledore?
he was-
Or
He'd be a little bit younger.
Yeah, he was born. There's like I don't know if it's in the Fantastic Beasts book. There's somewhere that is official that he was born in 1897. So even by wizard standards, he would only be like 120 right now, and
so I mean, like, is that normal? or
that's seemingly normal. I think wizard.
Yeah, I mean, if Dumbledore can be 150.
Yeah, and Dumbledore didn't seem like he was dying of old age by any means.
No.
Even as worn down as he was with everything. So I think typical wizard lifespan is maybe like 175 to 200 years.
And
Okay.
my thoughts on his presence during Prisoner of Azkaban is he's there because of Lupin.
Oh,
You know, they're dealing with the whole
okay.
werewolf thing.
And he's looking
Um,
for research.
Right. And I think there's something in his history and Scamander's history that he is actually part of some committee on werewolves, or he writes a dissertation about werewolves, something
yeah.
like that. He actually has a lot to do with
Yeah,
it.
he was responsible for having the werewolf registration created at some
Right,
point in the
okay.
past.
Okay,
And
so,
Dumbledore would have let him know that he hired Lupin because Dumbledore Dumbledore did know that he was a werewolf, so he probably
Yeah.
would have let Scamander know, like, hey, if you want to do research, look who's at my
Yeah,
school.
or he could be there
Or
in a
possibly-
consultation capacity.
right,
oh,
he could be bringing him the,
Wolfsbane,
what is it, Monk's Hood?
Wolfsbane potion.
Yeah, Wolfsbane, Monk's Hood.
or he could have been the one that taught
Taught Snape how to make it.
Severus how to
Yeah.
make it. Yeah,
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Is it
or they just put their two heads together and came up with it or something.
yeah. You know, I think that's my guess would be along those lines, and I don't think we'll ever get that defined. So we'll just have the pandering and guessing, but I think it's just like a neat little Easter egg within it that, you know, like, oh, they had his character there and fleshed out enough in her mind at the time to include him on that map to make sure his name appeared. Because I don't think it was just a happy accident.
Yeah, it might not have been. I will definitely watch that sometime within the next week because I got ultra curious when I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the type, I'll watch it, and I'm the type that halfway through the movie I'll forget to look for it, and I'll be like, well, shit, I just missed it or something. You know, like I'll get to the end of the movie and be like, oh, I forgot to look.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta
I just
watch
get
it
so
again.
entrenched in what I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good movie. Crap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people, like, seeing, like, reviews and whatnot online, people saying that the guy that directed Prisoner of Azkaban, they really should have just gone for him instead. Just because Yates, they, you know, and I agreed with it, a lot of the criticisms of it is that when he took over with Order of the Phoenix, he kind of took the magic out. It didn't have that same feel that the first three did, at least.
As much of the whimsical.
Yeah, you know, like the singing something wicked this way comes, you know,
Yeah.
like it didn't have the same environment, you know, and I get that the tone of the books changed too, but you still felt like you were in the wizarding world, whereas this, when Yates took over, it kind of turned a little bit.
And Mike, I want to jump off that because one of the things I wanted to bring up was that we are getting 5 movies total. David Yates has been confirmed to direct all 5.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited for that prospect, or would you rather have different tastes and different directors over some of these movies?
I was skeptical about it that he had done he had done half of the Harry Potter franchise. He did the last 4 of the 8. I will say though, after what he delivered with this, I am happy to see what comes next at least. Like I said, I think the one, if nothing else, for whatever someone else might nitpick on this movie, the one thing that I thought was absolutely phenomenal was the execution of the movie as a period piece. The costumes, as I said before, the costumes, the look of the city, the set dressing, the production design. I was very blown away by it. And this story happens to be taking place in that background. And I thought he achieved something really great with that enough that, yes, some things can go stale with, having one director in charge of things for so long. But at the same time, they also have I looked at the credits. They have the same production designer as they did for the entire series, Stuart Craig.
So wait, they were on all 8 movies?
Stuart Craig was the production designer for all 8 movies.
Okay.
Steve Kloves, who did the screenplay for, I think, 7 of the 8 movies. He was on as a producer this time because J.K. actually wrote the screenplay. David Heyman, who was the main principal producer on the entire first franchise, is the main principal. They kept a very good core team together. So, yes, there can definitely be something to having different influences. There's also the idea of don't fix something that's not broken.
Right.
So, like I said, there was enough in this that I absolutely 100% loved that I'm just waiting to see the next one. And if by like the end of part 2, part 3, things seem to be like, I don't know. Okay, I think I make it akin, at this point, I make it akin to how Kevin Smith has described going to the CW to direct episodes of The Flash and Supergirl. He said, yeah, you're the director on paper, but you're also walking into a world of people who do things day in and day out and have been doing them for so long that in some regards they don't really need you to do them.
Yeah.
I feel like
He said that live today.
Did he? Like, yeah. I feel like that's maybe where Warner Brothers is with their team. And maybe David Yates is just, maybe he just works so well with that team that they figure, this is it. This is the group that's going to do this. On the other hand, maybe all the other players are really executing everything well enough that maybe it wouldn't really matter who the director was.
Yeah.
I like the consistency. I think that's a important thing for the franchise at this point, because so many times it feels like when they lose the consistency, like kind of what you said, don't fix it if it ain't broke. And they try to, and it doesn't work. So hopefully this works out for the better.
Yeah, I think it will be good to have David Yates do them all. I mean, the worst thing, you just don't want it to become stale. So as long as he can keep things fresh and interesting somehow, we're not going to be screaming for another director just to get a change of pace or something. For as much as the Transformers movies are all maligned and most people hate them, it's just they feel like the same thing over and over and over again for 5 movies. You don't want to feel that way with this. If they still do something different, even if it's just story different, like enough story different things. I mean, and if all 5 movies cover a 20-25 year time period, at least maybe the change in setting will help too. So yeah, I think I'm on board with that. Right as of right now, I'm saying I'm on board. We'll see after two or three more movies if I still feel the same way. Andy, how do you feel about same director?
I think he did a pretty good job. I would probably be okay with it. I just hope that he doesn't fall into like a rut where you're kind of worried about him. You know what I mean? Like
if by the end of movie 2 you're a little skeptical and then you realize, oh, he's in charge of 3 more.
Right, and you're just kind of like, oh, shitballs,
Yeah.
So, because I don't know, you can kind of, I don't know, lose your direction, I guess, if that happens too often.
Yeah, it's just going through the motions. You're not really feeling as creative anymore. Plus, a lot of people get burnt out.
Right.
That's why people take breaks after doing franchise movies for back-to-back times.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah. He did the 2 Avengers movies and oversaw a lot of the Marvel movies and then was done. He served his 3-year time. He was done. All right, so we're going to, I think, try to wind down and wrap up. Josh, did you have one or two other things you want to touch on real quick before we
just
cut
some,
out?
Like, fun notes of the production and stuff that I put together as I was looking. This is the second time that both, specifically Johnny Depp and Colin Farrell, have played the same character.
Oh, Imaginarium of Dr.
Yes.
Parnassus.
Following Heath Ledger's death in the middle of that movie.
Oh, that's right.
Those two, in addition to Jude Law, took on the persona of that same character. They kind of reworked some things, and those 3 actors stepped into the character to finish that film for them. So I thought that was a fun little Easter egg. Also, going off of, like, we talked about, like, where else could these sequels go? 1926 is also the year that Tom Riddle is born. So by, like, 1942-43 is when he is murdering his parents, and he's leaving wizard school. So he's, like, 19 to 20 years old at the time that Voldemort... Or, I'm sorry, at the time that Grindelwald and Dumbledore are having their battle. And he's actually, he's about 15 or 16 when he opens the Chamber of Secrets. So in the middle of this time frame, around, in 1941, 42, 43, he's opening the Chamber of Secrets at Hogwarts, possibly inspired by the rise of Grindelwald to look into his own lineage and attracted to the dark arts, etc. So he is already starting down that path during the story arc of this franchise.
And possibly tying in with Newt because of the Acromantula.
Quite possible. That is an excellent point. Upcoming stuff, I would say the actress who played Tina, Catherine Watterson, and the actress who played the president, who her name is Carmen Ejogo. The president's name is Serafina Picori. That was her name. They are both going to be in the upcoming Ridley Scott continuation of Alien. The next Alien is called Alien Covenant. They are both going to be in that, which I thought would be fun because I enjoyed both of them very much in this movie. I definitely started to tear up immediately just when the opening title opened and I heard that little movement of those couple of notes.
The Harry Potter theme.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of the using the wands as the umbrella.
That was
it
nice.
was
That
a
was
nice,
cool.
simple thing. I can't believe they didn't think of it earlier. I thought it was charming as hell, and I loved that. Did anyone catch this? When Newt comes out of the suitcase in the Ministry of Magic in front of the Confederation of Wizards, they say, Scamander, the war hero? And then someone says, no, that was his brother. What the hell was that about?
Oh, yeah. I'm assuming that we're going to find out a little bit more about that, because I didn't get that reference.
And I don't know what war they're talking about, because this is a wizard community. What other wizarding war would they be referencing? I thought that was an interesting point.
Are we assuming
The Clone Wars.
Are we assuming that World War I would have no impact whatsoever on the wizarding community?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but they don't really ever... There's no other points in any of the stories where they talk about wizards participating in or they could be affected by, I'm sure, in some ways, but participating in... And maybe they do. Maybe this is an exception or something that occurs, but...
Maybe
Well, do we assume
Grindelwald
he's a wizard,
caused
though?
World War I. Maybe that's the reference back to what Grindelwald was doing, and when they captured him, is maybe he was the actual cause behind it.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, it was.
Maybe he assassinated the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And
yeah, I just thought it was an interesting point that it sounded like a throwaway line, but I'm like, that can't be the end of that.
Well, do we assume he's a wizard, or could just be a soldier in the war? Like,
oh, he might be a nomad. Can you have a brother that's a nomad?
Sibling,
you'd have a squib.
siblings
Or a
could do
squib,
it.
that's
I
what it is.
doubt that if he was that that he would be noteworthy enough to those international
for all those
gatherers.
leaders. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, you
So,
can't drop
I've
about
a-
a wizard war and not touch on it later.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to that.
So I have a real quick
Do it.
question before you carry on. Do you think Scamander maybe took a role in Hogwarts as the teacher of essentially
Care of
what?
magical creatures.
Yeah.
He might at some point later, his early career after. Well, here's the thing: in the movie,
I
they
don't know.
say he's
I don't
expelled.
remember.
After that, he goes to work. He somehow is able to work for the Ministry a little bit, and the travels that he's been on have been to, as he said, write this book, make this manuscript. But it's not really spelled out very well in the movie, but it is almost like work commissioned research.
Okay.
So even though he was expelled, and in the Fantastic Beasts book, they don't say he's expelled. It says after he graduated. So they changed that. But yeah, I guess his knowledge was recognized enough, his aptitude was recognized enough that he was able to find some kind of position in the British Ministry. But
I think it's interesting that both he and Hagrid are expelled and both end up dealing with magical creatures.
right.
As if it's kind of like the plan B for people that are expelled.
They just
It's
can't help
the,
themselves. They inevitably find themselves in those situations.
Well,
So
they're
do you-
still
do you think
accepted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say they're still accepted as part of the magic community, but they're not really a full part of it.
Mhm.
So they send them out to the ranch to tend the animals.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
I'm going to predict that maybe Dumbledore asks Scamandnewt if he wants to be teacher of magical creatures at Hogwarts.
He very well end up do that
one of
in
these,
the future.
One of these sequels. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he'll accept it.
Whether or not he
Yeah.
accepts, I'm thinking at least Dumbledore's going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, among the accomplishments they list for his career, that's not among them.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean they could change it, because they changed whether he was expelled. So they can always change that to suit their wants and needs.
Yeah. The last thing I'll run through is just in case anyone wants to do their own quick Googling or look these up on their own to get some more background on them. So this is the quick list of the creatures that I was able to find confirmed through other websites and through reading through the book that appear in the movie. This is just alphabetical. An ash winder, billywig, the bowtruckle, which we talked about, the demiguise, which was the disappearing monkey-looking thing, a Diri crawl, Diricrawl, Doxies. Those both appear very quickly, just in the suitcase montage. The Erumpent, the rhinoceros-looking thing. Sarah really latched onto this one. The Fwooper. Fwooper. It was the pink owl bird-looking thing in the suitcase. The Graphorns, Grindylows, Mooncalfs, which were the like mini llama-looking things with the big long necks and the huge eyes. Murtlaps, which is that big rat thing that attacks Jacob in his apartment. The Nifflers, the Nundu, which was the thing that looked like the lion pufferfish thing.
Okay.
The Occamy, which was the bird snake thing, the big blue purple things that they found. The Swooping Evil, the Thunderbird, and then there were two other ones that I could not necessarily nail down or name. One was these like luminescent spiders that Newt is seen holding and actually like bottle feeding for a quick second. And then there were those big, huge crab insect-looking things that were pushing rocks around.
Those just look like
The
big
whole time-
dung
yeah.
beetles.
Yeah, they look like
I thought
beetles.
they were rounding up dung.
Yeah, and they very well may have, but
he was keeping them there so that they could clean.
It might have been.
his-
I couldn't
his
nail down
suitcase.
anything that was like a specific magical name for them, but that's about everything.
So what were the big horse? What were the big horse things with like the squid or like tendril
those are the
mouths?
grap horns. Those are the
Okay.
grap horns. So
You mean the things that they stole from Avatar?
no, that they made up that they're magical. Avatar's stupid.
All right. One more quick thing. Go around out of 10. What are you giving the movie?
Solid 8.
I was saying
was
8.5.
I was gonna give it between an 8 and a 9.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going 8.5 myself. So I think it's fair to say we've all pretty much liked the movie. Looking forward
Yeah.
to the
Go
next one.
see it if you
I'll see it
haven't.
with you.
Fucking see it.
Contact me.
There you go. You have a dinner date right
Yes.
there with Josh. All right, so that's where we're gonna wrap this one up. If you've enjoyed the show, please stop by iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review. While you're there, be sure to share, subscribe, favorite us, so that way you can keep coming back and finding us later and keep listening, because that's what we want you to do. And you can check us out on a Facebook page. You can search for Bry Guy and his Super Friends, or go to www.facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can find the page. Give it a like, leave us a comment, leave some questions, all that good stuff. We'll get back to you. And on behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Hells to the meow.